All right, so I said it before, I'll say it again. The difference between Foles and Wentz is night and day. Foles is a much better quarterback than Carson Wentz. Here's why. Number one, he's a Super Bowl MVP. Number two, he's back in the playoffs next year. They beat Chicago. And number three, you can call him whatever you want, third string. Hell, man, you can call him a college quarterback. I don't care what you call him. But he's in there with Chicago. And they just, in a playoff relevant game, went up against Seattle. And they won the game with a 2 point conversion. It's a playoff relevant game because it kept Seattle out of the playoffs. They won the game beforehand. Chicago, they're a decent team. They got some decent players, some weapons. They got a Super Bowl wide receiver that played backyard football with Foles to win that game. But basically, uh, it was a playoff relevant game and they won. Okay. Now on the other hand, I had Indianapolis at 8-8. They came up with a win against Arizona. That was a good win. Arizona was something like 10-5, maybe 11, just 10-4, something like that. And they came up with the win. Carson Wentz made a big throw on his feet to the side, moving to the side. That was a big throw that got to the end zone. They beat the Patriots. That were something like 9-5, 9-4. That's a good team. I mean, the one thing I'll say about those two teams is they went out more quickly in the playoffs than I thought they would, Arizona and the Patriots. So I question the record given what happened in the playoffs. But when a quarterback comes up with the throw, I'm not going to bullshit and say he didn't. To beat those teams, you have to be a good quarterback. I never said Carson Wentz was a bad quarterback. I said he was above average, and I said he was top 15, and I still say that. But the bottom line is he has almost no playoff experience other than briefly in Philadelphia, where he got hurt in the first quarter, and he's very injury prone. It happened year in, year out. There's Merrill Reese says durability. It's not just playability. There's durability. The other thing is, with no playoff experience, you can't keep referencing many years ago where he was almost a MVP of an entire season, but he got hurt. Where Philadelphia then went on to win under Doug Peterson, an entire team with Nick Foles as quarterback to be the Super Bowl MVP. During that season, I'll remind you, Carson Wentz was 3-2 against plus 500 teams. He lost to Kansas City. He had, I believe I don't know if they won against Dallas that year or they didn't, but he was 3-2 against plus 500 teams, and he had a lot of window dressing. So he was almost an MVP of a season. He was a candidate, but he wasn't the MVP. He was almost. Okay, definitely. I mean, he's top 15, and had he not got hurt, who knows what would have happened. But the bottom line is he has almost no playoff experience, and he's been in the league a very long time. He got sat down in Philadelphia, and rightfully so. And I remind you, my Eagles were in the playoffs this season. Oh, Philly's going to be nothing. No, Philly was something. I think they ended up something like 9-8. They got in the playoffs, and they got playoff experience against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got playoff experience. They didn't just throw in the towel. The game was basically over, but they kept fighting. They put some more points up on the board, and they got playoff experience. And not everybody expected them to be in the playoffs this year. That's an accomplishment. But you can't. You can pay a guy $133 million. That's fine. You can pay another guy 88 million. You can call Carson Wentz the next big things. He's reinventing football. You can say whatever. You can say whatever. You can get in any adjective you want. Foles, he's a third string. You can say whatever. Here's the bottom line. Foles was a Super Bowl MVP with the same players around him as Carson Wentz. I understand Wentz got hurt that year, and then Foles came in. He beat Atlanta. He beat Minnesota, and then he beat the Patriots. Tom Brady. The fact that a little bit of a tangent, Tom Brady retiring. There's never going to be another Tom Brady. Most uh, finishing drives in playoff history to win the game, comeback drives, on the line drives. I think like 14 or something. Uh, Most Super Bowls, uh, clutch as it gets. I mean, hell, he's down 20-3 against LA. You can't ever count Tom Brady out. He's 44 years old. They're down 20-3, and it ends up 30-27. And he got the ball. I mean, it was 27-27, I believe. I didn't watch the game, and then LA got a field goal. You can't ever count Tom Brady out. But my point is, Foles, Long, Aguilar, Doug Peterson, the entire team, Zach Ertz, 4th and 1, the entire team with Foles as quarterback beat the best all time, the Patriots. And Foles had another win in Chicago where he beat Tampa Bay that year when he had to win over Atlanta and he beat Tampa Bay with Chicago. Okay, you can call it whatever you want, but Foles is a Super Bowl MVP with the same players around him the following year. Okay, Carson Wentz gets hurt again. I'm not down on Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is top 15. Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. You can call it whatever you want, but he hasn't played more than a quarter of a playoff game. I mean, we're going into like many seasons here. It's not like his second season and the sky's the limit. He's been in the league a long time. He goes to Indianapolis. Well, if you got Jacksonville, you got to win that game. If you come up with that win against Arizona, where I had you at 8-8, and then you lose the following games, well, you got a problem because you're not in the playoffs in that division. Okay, and there's no excuse for that, and you've got to come up with those wins. He came up with a big throw against Arizona. He played a good game against the Patriots. Played a very good game against Arizona, but he's inconsistent. He's not durable. The bottom line is, here is the fact: he has not played more than a quarter in a playoff game. That's it. You can call it whatever you want. And the other fact is, in Philadelphia, after the debate with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, Carson Wentz stayed, and Nick Foles went to Jacksonville for $88 million, paid Carson $133 million. They had one playoff game where he was in for a quarter. They barely got into the playoffs. And then the other situation was, when he was stinking up the joint, he got rightfully sat down. And now Philadelphia is back in the playoffs, and Indianapolis isn't. Indianapolis can pay him whatever you want. You can call it whatever you want. They didn't make the playoffs. They had a big win against Arizona. They had a big win against the Patriots. Those are two good teams. But they're not in the playoffs. I mean, you lost to Jacksonville. On the other side of the coin, you got a guy who's Super Bowl MVP. He's back in the playoffs next year. Beat Chicago. Puts it on the line against Drew Brees. Had he made that catch, who knows what would have happened. The guy missed the throw. It was on his hands. And then, it didn't work out in Jacksonville. The rumor mill was there was a bit of a hit being put on Foles for whatever reason. He had dirty hits, and that happened in New Orleans, where there was the bounty gate. The rumor was that there was dirty hits going around on Foles. Hopefully they cleaned that up. He went down with a collarbone because dirty hits were being applied to him for whatever reason. Came back in Chicago. I never said anything bad about Trubisky. When he was there to back him up, he played all right. Got hurt. Again, there's a rumor that dirty hits. But the thing is, this year when it came to play again, you can call them whatever you want. It was a playoff-related game. They beat Seattle. I think they had a win beforehand. The final game of the season they lost. But, I mean, the bottom line is the bottom line. The facts are the facts. You got a Super Bowl MVP who's back in the playoffs with something like 4-2 in the playoffs, and you got another quarterback who's played a quarter in the playoffs. That's it. And the other quarterback's being paid a ton of money. This quarterback isn't. But this quarterback's not getting in the playoffs. He's got to hand it to him. With Jacksonville, they lose. And then this quarterback, who was 4-2 in the playoffs, when he's brought in, you call it whatever you want, in a playoff-related game, keeps Seattle out of the playoffs and against a tough team. So you can call it whatever you want. You can give it, and he tell you, oh, he's a third string. Nick Foles did an interview afterwards where he gave credit to that wide receiver playing backyard football with him. He says, I don't go by a title that people give me. I'm a football player. I'm a Christian. I play the game. I love the game. I work within my circle of influence. When I'm in the lab, I can work on the progressions. I can work on the plays that we're going to make. I can work on being a good teammate. I can help be the backup for the quarterback and train with him. We can all make each other better. He wasn't going on and on about himself. And he never said anything bad about either starter, the starter or the second string, just like he didn't in Philadelphia. He never said anything bad about Carson Wentz. And in fact, the following year after being in the Super Bowl, he said, I'm taking a back seat. I'm going to see where the Lord takes me. And then Carson went down, and the same players, they were 6-7. He came back with wins over Texas. He came back with first place that year. He came back with wins over L.A. That's now in the Super Bowl with Cincinnati. And they were a 13-point dog. They won there. Then Washington, they beat them. And then when the playoffs, they beat Chicago, and they lost to New Orleans in a very close game. But, I mean, you got 4-2, 0-1. 4-2 Super Bowl MVP, 0-1 plays a quarter, gets hurt. Basically, you got 119, 27-2 his best season, which is second only to Brady in terms of the touchdowns to interception, and third best all time, I believe better than Brady's all-time best season. So when he's hot, he's hot. And then you got another guy who, his stats are good. He's top 15. He's above average, but he's paid too much money. There's too much talk surrounding him. And he's got to get in the playoffs and at least win a playoff game for there to be this much talk. I mean, you could talk a guy up as much as you want. The facts are the facts. You can talk another guy down all you want. The facts are the facts. So we can have this debate all day long. But I'll say it. I said it before. I say it again. The difference between Foles and Wentz is night and day. Foles is a much better quarterback than Carson Wentz with a much better track record.